Alright, what's up guys? Welcome back to another Beach Boys album ranking video. Today we have finally made it to number 10, top 10, the last stretch of their albums, and I'm really fucking excited because it took 20 reviews, and as much as I love doing all of those, this is really where all of my favorites come in, and really all of their best. But, you know, for a band like the Beach Boys with so many great albums, a lot of people's rankings are different, and for me, you know, I have my own ranking, but other people might disagree with it, and that's all cool, and that's what I like about the Beach Boys, is because they have so much music, and so many people can appreciate different things about their music. So, you know, thank you guys for all watching and supporting my videos. I really appreciate it. It means a lot to me. But from here on out, these are really the reviews where I'm going to try to do my best work on. You know, I really love doing all the other ones, but these albums all mean so much to me, and without any further ado, I guess I can just get into it. So, last video, number 11, we checked out Summer Days and Summer Nights from 1965. That is an absolutely classic record. Marks a commercial peak for the band and a creative explosion for Brian at the time, you know, just leading up to Pet Sounds. And there's so many great things about that record, but it's also kind of sad to look at because it kind of marked the ending of that early Beach Boys that we all know and love. And after that, they were never really the same. You know, yes, they still had success after that, but you know, when you think of that early Beach Boys sound, you know, the fun band, that was kind of like the last foray for them in that territory. So I had a lot of fun doing that review. Got a lot of views on YouTube. Thanks for everyone who watched it. It was really fucking long. And, you know, you might notice a pattern with these next reviews. You know, the last three I did in all these top 10, they're going to be super fucking long. And, you know, half of these reviews, well, not even half of them, probably almost all of these reviews are going to be longer than the albums they're actually on. And I'm sorry, you know, you don't feel obligated to watch the whole fucking thing, but if you do, I appreciate it. But I just have so many things to say about these records, and I guess I just want to get everything out in these videos because, you know, not that I want my Beach Boys obsession to end after these reviews are done, not at all, but I'm just going to feel a lot more accomplished once I finish these, knowing that I got everything out that I wanted to say about these records, so I can kind of feel like, you know what? That's what I think about the Beach Boys discography. So, you know, these reviews are long, I know that, but you know, if you guys want to watch the whole thing, I would appreciate it. If not, that's completely fine. That's just what I need to say about these records. And yeah, so without any further ado, number 10 out of 30, released on December 18th, 1967. An amazing fucking record, a classic fucking record. Wild Honey. So this one is super cool. So for backstory, we kind of have to backtrack back to Pet Sounds. So as most of you guys, or maybe all of you guys know, Pet Sounds was released to amazing critical acclaim, but commercially did not do as well as their other records before then. And Capitol is like, whoa, what are you guys doing? So they kind of pressured Brian to put out something more commercial, and you know, in the December, well, released in October, but really gained traction in the late 66. Released in late 66, the band put out Good Vibrations, their biggest hit ever, and their biggest selling single ever, and probably their most iconic song of their career. And you know, it went to number one almost everywhere. Well, not almost everywhere, but in America and the UK, it went to number one. It sold a ton. I think it was a million seller, more than that. And it just changed pop music completely. It was kind of the first step in the psychedelic movement, in that whole progressive psychedelic era of music. And it really showed the public, not just that the Beach Boys could do something more than pop, you know, more than, you know, simplistic pop, which they had already shown with, you know, Pet Sounds, Beach Boys Today, and a lot of other singles. But, you know, it showed the public, the masses, because as it was a number one single, it showed them that, you know, the Beach Boys, not only the Beach Boys could make music that deep and complex, but that music in general, pop music, could be that deep and complex. So it really changed the game for a lot of things. And at that point in time, it was the most expensive single ever recorded and produced, and one of the most ambitious songs ever recorded in music history. Anyway, how are they going to follow it up? So they started working on their next album, Smile, and as you guys all know, it never came out. It collapsed, you know, it was too much pressure on Brian and the rest of the band, and they just shelved it. And it would never, you know, the album was never finished, but even the tapes would never see an official release until 2011 with the Smile sessions, which we'll get to in a while. So anyway, Smile doesn't happen, and because of that, because of all the hype that was building up around it, to not see it come out, Beach Boys fans and the general public of music fans were very disappointed in the band for not putting it out. So that kind of, for some reason, created a stigma against the Beach Boys. Like, for some reason, just right after Good Vibrations and right when Smile didn't come out, their commercial popularity just completely dropped to a level that had not been that low since the beginning of their career. And they put out an album called Smiley Smile later that year. You know, it was kind of a it featured some stuff from the Smile sessions, but most of it was completely newly recorded in Brian's house, and it was just a lo-fi, completely lesser serious kind of thing. And you know, though it didn't do anything close to as good as their prior records in terms of sales and popularity, it's still a fantastic record that we'll get to in a little bit. But basically, that marked kind of a changing point for the Beach Boys. That kind of marked another era for them. You know, their kind of decline in commercial popularity, but it's kind of when their art started taking things to a whole new level. Not saying that Pet Sounds wasn't, obviously, but they started doing more interesting things and a lot of different things, and that led right into this record, Wild Honey, released at the very end of the year. And this is a completely different record from the rest of the band's discography, and there's so many things about this one that I love and absolutely adore. Right up from the album cover. So what's really cool about this album cover is it wasn't a painting, it wasn't commissioned by an artist to create for the album cover. This was actually a stained glass window in the front of Brian's house, in his front living room. And all they did was took a picture of it and, you know, put the logo on it, and boom, there's the album cover. And I think it fits perfectly just because it already has the flowers, the bee, Wild Honey, you know. There's some pictures, not just of this, but there's some pictures, very few pictures of his room at the time that shows this in the background. It's very cool to see the album cover in full like that, or not even just the album cover, but the glass window. Anyway, so super cool album cover, and especially with the, you know, prevailing psychedelic trends at the time, it definitely fits. It's definitely a more natural vibe to it, which I really like. The back cover, this was the first time we really saw all 6 guys highlighted on a Beach Boys album, including Bruce. You know, Bruce was on the back cover to Pet Sounds, but he was never really mentioned by name or by a big picture, just very slight. But in this one, we have all 6 guys, you know, Mike, Brian, Carl, Bruce, Al, Dennis. Super cool picture, and cool little font there. And this is an original 1967 mono with some shrink wrap on it. It's like half shrink wrapped. I was gonna take it off, but I was like, you know, I'll keep it on because that's how it came. So anyway, yeah, so this album was released on December 18th, 1967, so right at the end of the year, only like 3 months after Smiley Smile. And it went to number 24 on the charts, which was better than Smiley Smile by like 20 placements, but it actually sold worse than it, making it their worst selling record up to that point in time, which is really sad. But it had 2 singles, both of which charted decently well, not anything close to how a lot of their top 10 and number 1s had charted, obviously. But I'll get to the songs and give my thoughts on them. But basically, this album took a completely different approach to the Beach Boys' style at the time. You know, while they are known for being a, you know, sunshine, progressive, happy pop band who made, you know, just blissful, huge productions, Smiley Smile especially, but Wild Honey as well, was a completely different vibe. This was actually recorded, along with Smiley Smile, this album was recorded in Brian's private studio in his house. And compared to Pet Sounds and Beach Boys Today and Summer Days, Summer Nights, this one features just completely like sparse instrumentation, a much more lo-fi sound, because, you know, a lot of people listen to that kind of stuff nowadays, but it really originated here and Smiley Smile. Those were the first 2 really lo-fi records, low fidelity. Now the sound quality was good, obviously, but just the style and the production of the albums really felt like lo-fi, and it kind of paved the way for a lot of those artists. So if you really want to hear some interesting stuff from the Beach Boys that you can mark as lo-fi, I'd recommend this one and Smiley Smile. I will get to Smiley Smile, as I said, but this one, super cool. But the trademark sound of this record, compared to almost every other Beach Boys album, is this one is an R&B, Motown influenced kind of thing. Completely different from what they had been doing. You know, they had R&B influenced stuff before, but that was much of a more Chuck Berry feel. This one is just completely, you know, that kind of soul thing, you know, Motown, that whole scene in the early 60s, they just completely took inspiration of, and I love it so much. And to me, this is one of the Beach Boys' most cohesive albums from front to back. But at the same time, it's also only like 23 minutes long, so it's super short and super simple, super sweet, to the point, but at the same time, it's just perfect all the way through, and I have so many things to say about this one. So, as I said, it was released December 18th, and the lead-off single released actually 2 months prior, in October, the title track, Wild Honey. And this one actually leads off the album, so I'll just get into the track listing from here on. So, Wild Honey was written by Brian, co-written with Mike as well. I think he did the lyrics. And oh my god, what a fucking awesome track. Opens with, the super high electro theremin, kind of the same sound they used on Good Vibrations, and it's just a completely different sound for the band. Just much more rock, just much more pure rock and roll compared to what they had been doing. And Carl sings it, as he does a lot of the songs in this album, and I will get to that and explain why I love Carl's voice on this record. But anyway, yeah, Carl sings it, and holy shit, he just belts it out. One of his best vocal performances, as well as a bunch of other songs in here. And man, this is really when Carl started to carry the group in terms of his vocals. He had always been a great vocalist, and he had done leads before this. Obviously, amazing leads. God Only Knows, Good Vibrations, Girl Don't Tell Me, and a few other ones too. And stuff on Smiley Smile and the Smile Session. So he had done a lot of leads before this, but in terms of him coming out as like a primary force in terms of the Beach Boys sound, this was really where this is where his vocals started to shine, and he started to grow in maturity. And no different on the title track, man. Carl's vocals are great. I love the instrumentation. It's just a much more laid back, rocky sound. The original mono, if you listen to the original mono mix, everything is very, very muddy, but not in a bad way. It's very charming, kind of packed together kind of sound. But for the kind of music it is, it definitely fits. And this, even though this is the stereo, it still kind of has that muddy sound quality. And is it the greatest production? No, but with all the the more simpler, you have the organ, you have the guitar, the bass, simpler drums, less orchestration like the Wrecking Crew. This was just the boys playing. And man, it sounds great. I really love it. And so for an opening track as the first single, released like 2 months before the record, perfect start to the album and a perfect way to showcase the new R&B sound they're going for. Track 2, written by Brian and Mike again, I'm pretty sure. I can check. This was mainly Brian and Mike's record. They would collaborate. Brian wrote all the music, Mike wrote all the lyrics. Yeah, so Brian and Mike wrote this one, track 2, called Aren't You Glad? And I fucking love this one. Super soft intro, with a tom kind of soft drum beat. Mike's super soft, pretty vocal, and then Carl's vocals on the chorus. Man, I love this one. And this one really shines the production and sound they're going for on the record. Just hearing Mike's softer vocal is really unique, because a lot of people know him for his, not cheesy, but his very nasally, upfront, loud, pop Beach Boy sound. Just his Beach Boy iconic vocal. He has his own style. But on here, it's completely different. On Aren't You Glad? It's softer and sweeter and more sincere, and it really works because he had done vocals like that in the past and would do more in the future. And I think, a lot of people like to hate on Mike. His vocals were definitely an iconic part of the band's sound, and on tracks like this, they just sound so fucking good, and I don't think any other member could achieve a deep baritone tone like that, and I think Mike does an amazing job, along with Carl. All the instruments sound great on it, and it's just a great fucking track. Right up there with Wild Honey is one of my favorites on the album, and there's a few more on here that I just absolutely love. Track 3 is a cover of Stevie Wonder's track, released in the same year, I think maybe a year before, I Was Made to Love Her. Now, this was a really big hit for Stevie Wonder. I think it went to number 3 for him. I'm not sure, I don't think the Beach Boys released it as a single in America. Maybe in a different country they released it as a single. But Carl sings this one, and this really is the highlight of his vocals on the album, besides one other song we'll get to. But holy shit, just, is the song a little bit out of Carl's range? Yes. And does his voice crack? Yes. But dude, it gives it such a raw character to it that you can't deny. And the energy is just so fucking amazing when, with the loud ass piano, the drums, the bass, the guitar, just the whole sound of it is just so high energy. And Carl's vocal is just great. And, I actually can't say I've heard the original, and if I have, I don't remember it, but just from hearing the Beach Boys version, I can just tell it's a great song. So if you want to hear a Stevie Wonder cover by the Beach Boys, look no further than this track. It's absolutely great. Followed up by a super underrated track, Country Air, so written by Brian and Mike again. And this one is super cool. So this one mainly features just the harmonies from the guys, but I'm pretty sure, let me think about it. I'm pretty sure Brian has vocals on it. When I do these reviews, I kind of try to think of who sings it, and it's kind of hard for me to think, but it's mainly more of a group thing. And yeah, Brian has vocals on it too. He does some cool falsetto stuff, and this one I really like the production on. There's some very, very cool noises in the song that sound like glitches. They almost sound like computer glitches. And for 67, I don't even know how they created those sounds, but listen to the song with headphones on and you let me know what you think because you'll probably understand what I'm talking about. You know, you'll hear the right symbol and then you hear some like weird glitchy noises. And I don't even know how they achieved that, but it sounds really cool. So Country Air, great fucking track, underrated one. And the band had played it. Brian's band had played it recently, I think a couple years ago. And the band back when this album came out had played it a little bit. So more people should know of it. Definitely a great underrated track. Side 1 ends off with the last song on Side 1. That was the stupidest fucking sentence I've ever said. Anyway, Side 1 ends off with A Thing or Two. This was written by Brian and Mike again. And this is a really cool song, probably one of my least favorites on the album. A great song, I might add. You know, there's nothing wrong with it, but just melodically isn't as interesting as the rest of the record in my opinion. This one's really cool. Mike starts off the vocal, and then I'm pretty sure Carl does the chorus. I'm pretty sure it's Carl on the chorus. It might be Brian. Can't really remember it right now. But really great song, really good R&B, you know, that just classic feel. But one thing I might add is that Mike's vocal on the first line, you know, he says, "When I see my baby, when I see my little girl." He says little girl. But just listen to the song and tell me what it thinks. Tell me what you think it sounds like, because to me it does not sound like little girl at all. It sounds like the N-word. Don't know how they got away with it. Don't know how they didn't catch it. But just listen to A Thing or Two. Listen for the first two lines and listen to Mike's vocal when he says little girl. Just an observation. So yeah. Anyway, that's Side 1. Absolutely fucking great. It's only 5 songs. All the songs are super short. You know, all barely over 2 minutes or right under a minute, I'm pretty sure. And you know, it really just shows the strengths of this album. Though it's a super short album and one of their shortest, if not their shortest record ever, it shows that they could take their sound that they were known for and you know, they still retain the same level of vocal harmonies and instrumental abilities and musicianship, but just put a R&B flavor over it. And you know, they showed everybody that, you know, we could do something different. And even though it's really short, you know, even just the Side 1's really short, it's just a completely unique sound that they hadn't touched on yet, and it's a really cool sound for them. Next comes Side 2, opens up with my absolute favorite song on the record, the second single, the biggest single on the record, and one of my favorite Beach Boys songs, an absolute classic, Darlin'. Yeah, for those of you who know, you know, this song is absolutely fucking amazing, sang by Carl, one of Carl's absolute all-time best vocals. If someone asked me to show them a song with Carl Wilson on lead vocals, it would be this one. This song charted at number 19. It was actually released the same day as the album as a single. And holy fuck, this song is so good. The rhythm and the energy and the melody is so catchy. It's so upbeat and it's just such a good energy to it. And I really love it so much. And I really can't say much more about it because it's just such a great song. So if you haven't heard it, definitely go listen to it. Awesome fucking song. My favorite on the album for sure. Followed up by a really cool song featuring Brian on the lead vocal. A very different sound for the record. It's called I'd Love Just Once to See You. Pretty long title. This one's really cool. It's a much softer sound, as I said, much more low-key compared to a lot of the other songs on the record. But I really like this one. It's about Brian wanting to see someone naked, you know, see his girl naked. What can I say? But it's a cool song. I really like the vibe of it, and it's a really cool underrated one. You know, not a lot of people talk about the track, but I think it's really great. Followed up by a really cool song, sang by Brian as well. Very, very rare Brian vocal, you know, not a rare Brian vocal, but you know, just an underrated one, you know. I actually used to think that Carl sang this one until I kind of listened to it more, and I was like, oh, that is Brian. But yeah, Brian sings this one, and this one's really cool, and one very interesting thing about it that I touched on in the LA Light album review way back is that they actually remade this track for the Light album. And it was like 11 minutes long, and it was a very fucking weird song. But the original, in my opinion, is way better, the definitive version of the track. And, man, I just love the energy on this one. That's what I've been saying with all of these songs, but it's true, because with the sound they approached this record for, you know, with the sound they wanted to go into this record with, they really achieved it really well, because it's just so different. It's just such a natural sound for the band. And you know, I can't give it any complaints. If I were to give any complaints, or not even complaints, just one of the reasons why this album isn't higher, why it's only number 10, is because I just think they made better, and I think they had more interesting sounds and more iconic sounds. But that being said, this record's still absolutely perfect, and Here Comes the Night is one of those examples. Next is one of my favorites. You could probably hear it a little bit in the background. Let the Wind Blow. This one is super fucking cool. Oh my god, almost sounds like a demo. It's so raw, so scarce. I think that's the word. Scarce in terms of instrumentals. Instruments, I mean. It's just a very low-key song, but man, Brian's vocals just beautiful. The harmony's beautiful. I love the fucking organ on it. Just the whole vibe of it is super spooky, almost like very eerie sounding, and I really love it for that. And just a great underrated track. Brian would remake this in the future on one of his solo records. The band would play this live a couple times, and Brian's solo band or Brian's live band would play this live a couple times. So go check it out if you haven't. I fucking love it. One of my favorites on the record. Probably top 3, top 4, honestly. Followed up by a fucking awesome song. I'm pretty sure it was Brian and Al who wrote this one. Oh, actually, so I actually did not know this. So Mike, Bruce, Al, and Carl wrote the song. So it was not written by Brian at all. It's called How She Boogalooed It. You can hear it in the background. Sang by Carl. This is probably the most high energy track in the album. Carl's vocal is fucking great, and a lot of people dislike this one because it's just more simple and silly, I guess, but I don't really mind it at all because it's a fucking great track. I love the sound of it. I love Carl's vocal out. You know, I was just on a bike ride this weekend and the song was playing, and it's just such a happy, fun song. I love the drums and the guitars, the whole sound of it. Very bluesy, very R&B. Definitely the sound they're going for, and that's actually the last full song on the record. The last song in the album, which really isn't even a song, it's like a minute-long a cappella track called Mama Says. If you just looked at the title, you'd be like, what is this? But then you listen to it and you realize it's actually the Vegetables chorus a cappella from the Smile Sessions. This very, very, very interesting, but if you've heard that track Vegetables, you know the chorus. Eat a lot, sleep a lot, brush them like crazy, run a lot, do a lot, never be lazy. It's just that, but a cappella, and then it ends off with like a poof. Just the guys, but it sounds fucking beautiful, and about a minute long, and with that, ends off Wild Honey. So basically you have 10 full songs and then a little a cappella outro, and the album is not even longer than 24 minutes, and that's the whole record. So that's really it. And you know, this is going to be a shorter review because it's a very short album, and I didn't have as many things to say about this one. I do have a lot of things to say about this one, but you know, I kind of want to keep this one under 30 minutes. But yeah, that's the fucking record. So basically what I could say about it is that the sound of it is completely unique within the band's discography. The R&B, more rock and roll, more just natural sound they went for really worked here. And while I don't think it's as artsy or as ambitious as Smiley Smile, Pet Sounds, Friends, Sunflower, Surf's Up, something like that, they definitely achieved what they're looking for. And this is one of the most re-listenable albums in their whole discography just because of how unique it is and one of a kind it is. And the sound is just undeniably great. Upbeat, catchy, the production is great, all the vocals are great. Carl really shines on here. When Carl sings, man, he carries it. Brian has a few vocals. Mike's vocals on here are great. Al and Bruce have some little select highlights, but they don't really sing main leads, and then Dennis is barely on here. I can't really hear him anywhere, maybe a couple places, but overall, that's Wild Honey. Very short album, short review for a short album, but it's a fucking phenomenal record, and I give this thing a solid 10 out of 10. The first 10 out of 10 in the entire album ranking series, I think. If it's not, maybe I did another one that was 10 out of 10, but I don't know, I can't really remember. So for me, this is easily a 10 out of 10 record. My favorite song on it, Darlin', probably followed by Aren't You Glad, Let the Wind Blow, the title track. Just, it's so great, and man, it's so cool, you know, even though it didn't chart as well as their previous records. Well, it charted better than Smiley Song, but every other record before that, it didn't chart as well. And it's really sad it didn't sell as well because, you know, I understand why it didn't, because they were just completely out of the mainstream in terms of what was popular at the time. You know, at the time, it was hard rock, psychedelic, crazy, huge production. But for this record, it was just much more simple. So I appreciate for what they did for that, and it actually was very influential in the long run, as years after, bands like the Beatles, Bob Dylan, Creedence Clearwater Revival, kind of bands like that would kind of go to the back to basics movement, where, you know, they're like, damn, you know, this whole psychedelic stuff's getting out of hand. Let's just, you know, play rock and roll again. And the Beach Boys predicted that, you know, years ahead with this record. And at the time of release, people didn't really see it as anything crazy, but it's become more reappraised in the years since. And yeah, so let me know what you guys think about this album. For me, it's an absolute essential record in the Beach Boys discography. For me, it's number 10, just because there's 9 more that I like more than this one, but also because I think the ones I put above this are just more interesting, musically and a much more, maybe some of the albums I put above this aren't as cohesive and track for track perfect, but I think they have more going for them as a whole. Not saying anything against this record, but still, I'll get to my reasons for all the other records being as high as they are. But that's basically it for this one. If you guys noticed, I was in a different location at my grandparents' house, not at my house, doing other things. I actually do like this location. I have a speaker set up in the corner. I don't even know if you can hear the music. But yeah, so review number 10 out of 30. So top 10, number 10 is done. And yeah, that's basically what I have to say about it. So Wild Honey released December 18th, 1967. Give it a 10 out of 10. Let me know what you guys think about this one in the comments, and I will see you guys in the next album review. Peace out.